Now we are going to talk about MVC core architecture. Okay. So now you see there is a server here. This is my web server. Right. This is my web server and this is my client. We will call this as web client, which predominantly call it as browser. Okay. Sir, I want to get list of products in my browser. So how the product will be displayed? The products will be displayed like this as a tabular column saying that product ID, name, price, some description. So this is how the records will be flowed here. To get this data, because data is not available here, where the data will be available? Here I have a database. Okay. So this is my database. Inside the web server, I will have a database. Okay. So this database will contain product info, product information will be stored here. Now, whenever you make a request from the URL here saying that get me the list of products, what will happen? The request will come here in the web server containing a web application. The request will come here. When you make a request, the request will come here. This layer we will call it as middleware layer. Always this middleware layer will be a program.cs file. Those who not understand, probably you can go through the code, but I will explain the architecture. You will understand what are the things you are going to make in the layer. In the middleware layer, I am going to slightly remove this. What I will do, I will bring here because I need something here. I can say web server and I will have here one layer. I will tell you what is that layer. Okay. Middleware layer. Whenever you make a request, the request comes to the middleware layer. Why? Because in middleware will catch that request, give the request to the one more layer called controller. The request will give to the controller. So when you make a request, web server detect that request, it will come to the middleware will detect give the request to the controller. Okay. Now after giving the request to the middleware controller will give a request again to the service. Immediately the service will comes here. That service again will give a control request to repository layer. That repository layer will talk to the database, get the data, giving response back to this, again giving response back to this, Sir, now whether my controller give the response back to the middleware? No, because I got the data. The data should be present in an HTML format. Then only you can able to see in the browser. For that, you will have one more layer called view layer. view layer. What controller will do? Controller will say, I got list of product. Can you bind that list of product in the view? Product list as a response, and after binding that, here you will have a binding of data as an HTML output. After binding of data, will give the response back to the middleware. That middleware will give the response back to the list of product. So, this architecture typically we will say as ASP.NET MVC core. Listen carefully. You are asking a request to the server. The request will come to middleware. Middleware will talk to the controller saying that I got a request. Can you process the request? Immediately it will give it to the service. Service will given to the repository. Repository will talk to the database. Database will again it will get the data from the database. That data will come to the repository as a response. Again service will get that response. Again it will go to here. Then it will come to the data. Then it will go on bind the data. This typical architecture will be called it as a ASP.NET core architecture. Sir, okay, fine. You are saying middleware view. Where is model? You are not seeing a model. MVC you are saying M for model, V for view, C for controller. Where is model? This is my model. You can't pass a data from middleware to here. Okay, you will call a method. Where the data will be available? Data will be available in model. Understand carefully. Here you will have methods. Here you will have methods. You will have methods. Here you will have methods. Okay. To get data for those methods, why do we need a method? A method is basically to execute an operation. To do that operation, you need data. Where the data will be available? Whenever the request comes, the request will give to the model. Controller will get the model data. Service also get the data from model. Repository also get the data from model. Again, view also will get the data from model. Or you got my point? Here, that data will be comes here. So, every layer, middleware layer, controller layer, view layer, service layer, repository layer, all the 5 layers require data. Where I am going to get the data? From the model. This is called typically MVC core architecture. If you understand this diagram, anybody who want to become a ASP.NET MVC core developer, first you need to understand this diagram. 90% of project architecture will build based on this. 90 to 95% MVC core architecture will build based on this. You take Spring, you take core MVC, Spring core MVC or Spring MVC or take Angular, whatever technology, this is the typical architecture follow in MVC. Clear? Now this is called ASP.NET MVC core architecture. Now sir, in these layers, what are all the things I am going to perform? Let's talk about layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5, layer 6. Let's mark these layers as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many layers we have? How many layers we have? We have totally 6 layers. Okay, so what type of project I can create in this layer? What type of project I can create in this layer? These three are considered as web project in .NET. This one and this one, all 4 are considered as class library project in .NET. Class library project in .NET. Okay, so these three, 1, 2, 3 are considered as web project. These three are will be considered as class library project. Okay, so this is the typical way you are going to create projects in your ASP.NET Visual Studio application. Now, sir, what are all the concepts we are going to use in these areas? We'll discuss in 2 minutes. Thank you.